You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-host, Kevin. Kevin, how are we doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Trying to make sense of what that Thursday night football game was, but opening round of the playoffs in most formats. So I am, I'm happy for the most part. We got a shot. Need a good Sunday slate here. Try and justify. We're lamenting over how this year just didn't quite shake out how we thought it might in a couple different areas. Hindsight's always 20/20, but it is kind of nice to go back there and see, okay, this is where I was right, this was where I was wrong. You can't control injuries, but there are definitely a bunch of those that shifted the operating status of what was the 2025 regular season for fantasy football. But nevertheless, I'm good, man. It's Friday night. Get to sit here and kick it with you. Enjoy the NFL slate, maybe the Army Navy game. That's the only show in town for college football this weekend after everything's been set. So a little bit lighter on the Saturday docket, but that's okay. Score some brownie points, get some honeydews done.
There you go. Absolutely. And I'm not gonna lie, next week during the bet set snap and the I might be a little distracted. I'm just gonna throw that out there, right? With Oklahoma and Bama squaring off. Who knows if that game, I doubt that's going to be concluded by the time we go on, but I might be a little distracted in the early part of that show. Have to hit that mute button and dump button a few times on me.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to set that up here in the office, because I might have to run the show from the other computer so that way I can play the game on this one, because the JOB computer doesn't like the streaming platform. So we'll get creative, but I'm right there with you so that way I can keep an eye on it.
Right. So certainly some good things kind of on the horizon and in store here. So it is week 15, and as you mentioned, it is the week 1 of playoffs in most scenarios, in most cases. And if you have folks out there have questions, concerns, comments, let's go ahead and throw those out there, get those in the chat, and start chatting about trying to bring home the cash and trophies here this postseason. But
so couple fun thoughts for you before we dive into this. Out of 16, is that right? Yes. 16 primetime starts for Baker Mayfield in his career.
Okay.
Want to guess what his record is?
Oh, there was a lot of Browns there. Last night wasn't very good. I'm going to say and you said it was 16?
16.
I'm going to say 6-10.
Worse.
Okay. By a little bit or a lot of it?
Well, I mean, you only have 6 games to play with, so I guess it depends on how you want to look at that.
Then we'll just kind of go at that 4-12 mark then.
2-14.
Okay.
2-14. Now, our co-host Alex was pounding the table for him in week 6, right? No, Baker and Hall of Fame, and he's trying to compare these. 2-14 in primetime games.
And he's 1-9 with the Buccaneers, I just saw.
Yeah. Go. I can't wrap my head around that. I can't. This Falcons team, the Buccaneers had no business losing each of these last 2 weeks to the Saints and Falcons in back-to-back weeks. None. And for whatever reason, I don't know if the coaches lost the locker room. I don't know if the players have some sense of entitlement. I can't imagine that's the case. These guys are all athletes. They're driven to compete. But what in the world are you doing losing to the New Orleans Saints and the Atlanta Falcons in back-to-back weeks when
Right.
you're supposed to be pushing down the stretch for the playoffs? Like Carolina they're now the odds-on favorite. Their percentage or likelihood of making the playoffs is now greater than Tampa Bay's. That was not on my bingo card.
No.
So it just something I heard last night. I had to verify it. 2-14, Baker. Like I like Baker. Like Baker's fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
The crazy thing is, in these primetime games, only averages 211 yards in the primetime games too, which is part of the reason. Which is part of the reason he's 2-14. So I mean, Ismail's had more than that last night. Mike Evans had himself a game. I think Mike Evans played a lot more than what they were planning on, but because the game stayed so tight and they couldn't stop the run, I think it kind of forced Mike Evans into some more considerable action. But he had himself a good game. And Buka had a better game, right? It wasn't weeks 1 through 5, but he had a better game.
Right.
Uh, Chris Godwin was there. Like this three-headed monster that Tampa Bay is now implementing at running back just makes me want to scream.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to hit the dump button in my head before my mouth said what I was really getting ready to say.
Fair enough.
I want to scream. What in the stinking world are y'all doing? Like, this is nuts. Like, I am so frustrated watching this. Like, it is not good football. It's not. It's bad football. And this is supposed to be a playoff team.
Right. Yeah, didn't I have Carolina having a rebound season like this on my bingo card either? So, yeah. Although I saw the other one that are going back to pick on Alex just a moment there. Wasn't that long ago we heard Alex kind of pounding the table that Phillip Rivers was also a Hall of Famer as well, and he's back. He's back and officially a member of the Colts again,
It is.
which that tells you just how desperate the Colts are when they go, you know what? We know you haven't even practiced in 5 years and been out the league for 5 years. And hey, why don't you go ahead and come back as the oldest guy in the league right now? And we're going to sign you to the practice squad. Like nobody else was out there apparently.
I think he's going to get called up.
It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't surprise me. Like,
you got to have a number 2.
you got to have a number 2. You're fighting for a playoff spot still. Like,
right. And really, if you're Philip Rivers could absolutely do like the Joe Flacco approach, right? Like, well, what's the worst they're going to do? Tell me to go back home. Like,
right.
You hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor. You do your best to not turn the ball over, and you feed Michael Pittman, and then take a couple deep shots to Alec Pierce. Like the game plan is simple, right? Tyler Warren's in there too, right? So Warren's your check down, Pittman's your first read, Warren's your check down, Pierce is your deep threat. Oh, and by the way, we're going to hand the ball off 25 times to Jonathan Taylor to help make it easy on you. So do what you can, read the defense, try and get us into the best play you think is there off of the film study. And here we go, right? Like just don't tear your rotator cuff trying to sling one in there too hard the first series.
Right.
Like it's just this is nuts. This is nuts. Like beginning the year, we thought that the quarterback position in the NFL was probably about as deep as it had been in a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, oh boy, we were wrong. We were wrong. Geno Smith, garbage. Just straight garbage. Justin Fields, garbage. Tyrod Taylor, a little bit better, but still trash.
And
Jaden
and
Daniels goes
perpetually hurt.
down.
Yeah.
Mariota has actually looked decent. I mean, I'll give him that. Like,
Mariota's looked better than he has in a long time.
yeah, like Mariota's looked decent. Anything attached to the Minnesota Vikings, garbage.
Hot garbage, flaming dumpster fire.
Like, I think Tua's remained safe because the Dolphins realized that, yeah, we just need to hand the ball off. Like, I don't know that I'll have to go back and look at the game stats. I don't know that Tua's had a game where he's thrown the ball more than 30 times.
That is interesting.
And I could be very wrong about that. Like, that is just a number that I'm kind of pulling out of my head. But where is it? He's on Alex's roster. See, how bad is this? I can tell you damn near every fantasy player in our home league and what roster they're on.
In week 9, he hit 40 attempts. In week 6, he hit 32 attempts. In week 5, he hit 36 attempts. And weeks 2 and 3, he was over 30. So, but no, the vast majority of those have been not that many pass attempts, right? Like last week, 21, week before 23, 20, 21.
Yeah, like, but I mean, it is what it is. The Cleveland Browns, garbage quarterback play. Bengals, for the most part, garbage quarterback play outside of, the 3 games that Joe Burrow's played and the 4 games that Flacco played. 5 games Flacco played. So half the season, garbage.
Yeah.
Like,
by the way,
I don't know.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good, man. I'm just saying it just hadn't been good.
By the way, you had me start really diving into that a little bit. Those 4 games. So it's been 4 games in a row where Tua has in any of those games the most pass attempts that he's had is 23. Dolphins are 4-0 in those 4 games.
Yeah, they're on a heater.
Right?
They're on a heater. You take what's working, right? When Tyreek's obviously hurt, he hadn't played all season long for the most part. Waddle's still finding a way to get his. Like, he's still getting targeted. Like, it's not great targets, but he's still getting targeted. And then Achane, just here, run the ball. And it's working for him. Like, the running game, a really good running game we saw last year between Baltimore and Philadelphia.
Right.
And we saw it earlier this year with the Colts. And now recently we've been seeing it with Detroit and Miami. Right. A really good run game because of how much speed the defense has put emphasis on the defensive line, right? There's just not big guys clogging up holes. If you can create a hole, and if you have a tight end who's willing to truly block, sky's the limit in the running game in the NFL right now.
Right.
It just is. Like, it's one cut go. And if you get into that second level, game on. Because most of these defensive backs don't love to tackle. Right? The days of the strong safety head hunting and trying to knock you out of the game are long past. So they're more finesse players. It's great for the passing game, but you go up against a team that really knows how to run the football, and you're in trouble.
Right.
So, I mean, it's really been the only reason the Buffalo Bills have been relevant this season. Dink and dunk a little bit and run the ball. Like, it just, good on them. It's been very interesting. The whole NFL concept this year, very, very, very interesting. A lot different than maybe what I think most people were playing out at the beginning of the year. So I know I kind of took us down a weird rabbit trail, but
actually,
we only have a couple more of these Friday night shows left, so I figure I'm going to get off my chest.
True. Speaking of which, we'll just go ahead and talk about that real quick before going back to another topic that you had kind of talked on. So week 15, week 16, week 17 will be the rest of the Friday night bet set snaps underneath the fantasy football lights. Come week 18, we'll still help out folks here and there where we can, through the socials, all of that. But I would probably recommend tuning more so into the Tuesday show going into that week, to kind of see what that looks like. But we're starting to come to the end of it, and only this episode and 2 more behind it this season before we're back to just the Tuesday shows. Real quick though, kind of touching on something that going back to something that you touched on there earlier about the Browns and their quarterback situation. I find it funny that the Browns kind of first 2 quarterbacks coming into the season. First of all, the guy on the actually starting now is their 4th stringer coming into camp. But moreover than that, the first 2 stringers they have went on and are starting games and have started games for other teams this season. So just kind of interesting to think about it, right? The Browns trading away Joe Flacco to an inter-division rival for really not much there for a starting quarterback for them to get them through to Burrow could come back. And then Kenny Pickett now going to make the start this week for Vegas. So, and then moving quickly on to Dylan Gabriel and now quickly on to Shadur Sanders. And it'll be interesting to see what the Browns do yet again this offseason, because it sounds like Deshaun Watson is coming back as the quarterback next season.
Yeah, we'll see how that dumpster fire goes. See if they can get him to rework his contract again. Create some cap space. I don't know what they're going to do. Honestly, I don't know that Stefanski's going to make it past the season. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he was a Black Monday coach.
I don't know how he's made it through it as many seasons as he has.
So, yeah, I think it's time for something new there. They gave it a run, valiant effort. It is. I think Stefanski's time has kind of come to an end. So, if I were in Cleveland, I'd be asking for a new football coach. Like, we did what we could, but this isn't it. Like, clearly they can't build this roster the way it needs to be built, and off we go. So,
right. I did find it funny, going back to some quarterback talk there. I did find it funny that it seemed like the second that Phillip Rivers signed a practice squad deal, we saw Cam Newton take to social media saying that he was available and he'd have showed up if somebody called. It's one of those that it may be worth, starting to understand and having some self-awareness that they're not calling you, meaning that they're not wanting you to even come in. It's cool that you're available. They didn't call you for a reason.
Here's something dirty that I'm surprised a team didn't do, especially one inside that division. If I'm the Houston Texans, why not? You can call anybody from their practice squad up, right? Like, that's open market, and the team that has that player on the practice squad either has to activate them right away or let them go.
Mm-hmm.
I would have called their bluff.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, hi, this guy in your practice squad, we'd like to bring him on. It just, what? Oh nope, now he's playing. Like, it just forced their hand just a little bit. Just kind of the cheeky gamesmanship behind it,
right?
But if you're Tennessee or, I mean, just really any team, the Jets, like the Minnesota Vikings, like, let's see what happens here. Like, we got nothing else really going for us. Like, let's take a stab at this guy. We'll put him on the active roster.
Right.
Like, see how that goes. I mean, I don't know. Again, cheeky gamesmanship, but I'm surprised more of that doesn't happen.
Right.
But it probably is frowned upon in the football owner circles, I guess.
Right. One of those that you don't do somebody dirty because the next time it comes around, one, you may have to work with them in the near future, but two, turnabout's fair play, and you don't want that happening to you either. So,
right.
Kind of the could be one of those unspoken kind of things, but that is an interesting thought. It would be very interesting to see a team decide to try and do that.
It just would have cracked me up.
Right. So it does look like I guess before we start getting into the chat and the comments, any news, notes, anything like that you want to hit up here before we start diving into it?
CD Lamb has cleared concussion protocol. I guess because it was on Thursday, given those couple extra days, did enough. So good on him. I mean, really good on him. That injury, I said it a lot Tuesday, that was scary. So that was crazy. T. Higgins is out this week against the Ravens. Really not surprising.
No.
As he was cleared to go back in and then started showing a lot of symptoms the next day and all the things. So not surprising that T. Higgins is going to be sitting this one out. Let's see. Those are kind of the big ones. Justin Fields is out, right? Like we already covered the Jets starting Brady Cook.
Right.
Garrett Wilson was not activated, or they didn't open his window yet. Trey Benson's window opened and closed. He did not get put onto the active roster within the 21-day window. So Trey Benson is effectively done for the season. So Bam Knight, Michael Carter, Amari DiMarcado, you're going to see a 2 to 3 headed backfield there in Arizona here for the rest of this year.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is out this week.
Yep, that's right. Marvin Harrison Jr. saw that one come through as well. He's out this week.
Taylor Mason's out, which not huge fantasy news, but he had been doing a little bit there, right? Jaden Daniels still out. Debo is questionable with an illness going into that game.
Yeah, Debo should be good to go. He stayed over with a stomach virus or bug or whatever, but Debo will be good to go.
Quentin Johnson is questionable with a groin.
My Lad McConkey shares need him to sit out.
Right.
I just it's another offense. My receivers in the home league, I am just surrounded by questions. Like,
right.
It was not a very good wide receiver year for me.
Getting more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown is out. You already mentioned T. Higgins. Dylan Sampson is out. David Njoku is out. So hopefully Harold Fannin to the moon. Let's see. Alvin Kamara is out, although that one's not really that surprising. Devontae Adams is questionable coming into this game. Same with Josh Jacobs, questionable coming in. Right, Josh Jacobs did, I do believe, did get some practice in today. So we'll see what that one comes about.
Yeah, they interviewed him Tuesday or Wednesday, asking him about that because he went and got his knee looked at, MRI, and basically what it was is he said it was getting a little stiff, a little swollen during the game. He said he didn't feel like he took a hit on it. It was just something, just slight discomfort, but they need to just make sure that they're getting the fluid out is how he phrased it. So I'm expecting him to play against the Broncos, but nevertheless, something to be mindful of.
Right. TJ Watt out. That was an interesting one that kind of came through. Right, he was going through a treatment session at the team's facility, and they ended up going to the hospital. And it sounded as though I think JJ came out and said that he ended up having a procedure or something like that. If I read that right, so. Something with a lung issue. So
it's not good. You need a pair of those,
right? And Tyrod will tell you don't do anything around the lungs at team facilities.
Yeah, don't get injections.
So yeah, I'm not real sure what the ins and outs were. I just happened to have come across that. It looked like he was undergoing some sort of treatment and then ended up having to go to the hospital, and saw that JJ posted a deal that he had some sort of some sort of procedure around a lung and like a collapsed lung or partially collapsed lung or something like that. So scary stuff, but sounds as though he's doing well. Alrighty. As I derailed this again there, any other news notes we want to hit up here before we start you keep diving into it?
Yes. Sorry. I think both of us would be irresponsible if we didn't mention the historic game that Kyle Pitts had last night.
Yeah, I'm still trying to forget that.
Right. Like this is the Kyle Pitts that we've been begging to see for the last 4 years. And finally, if the game finally happened. So good on him. I mean, definitely a career game. First time or highest scoring fantasy performance by a tight end since 1983, I believe. So kudos to him. 3 touchdowns, 150 some odd yards. Like it just Tampa Bay couldn't stop him, and Kirk Cousins was saying, "Okay, thank you very much. Like I'll just keep feeding him." So the mismatch was there, and Tampa Bay never solved the problem. So Kirk Cousins just kept feed the beast, right? So good on him. I think I played him in 2 leagues, and I played against him in 2 others, so kind of a wash, but we understand as you're setting lineups, if you went up against Kyle Pitts, you are definitely changing your game plan, and you got to go for ceiling plays now, right? Like there's just no way around it. It's a big number to be staring down from a single player that played Thursday night. You have too many 48 hours of just staring that down, really more than 48 hours of just staring that down before the games really start to get underway. So, good luck to anybody who is going against Kyle Pitts this weekend.
Yeah, that'll be. I'm one of those unfortunate folks that is going against Kyle Pitts this weekend in the home league. So that'll be. It's a lot of fun on trying to figure out where I can try and find some upside this late in the season to try and plug in there, and while also trying not to get too cute with it to try and eke out a playoff win here. But it is a very tough road to hoe on this one. But alrighty, any other thoughts before we start diving into the chat?
No, we can get into it now. I'll shut up.
All right, let's go ahead and hop in here. Jason over on YouTube saying, "What's up, boys? It feels good to not have to worry about playoffs this week. They got the bye weeks. Start next week with the questions. Haha. Thanks for everything you guys do. Most welcome, Jason, and good on you for getting those bye weeks."
Oh yeah.
Frosty chiming in saying, "Yo." Frosty also saying, "I can't believe I played McBride over Pitts."
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Don't. Historic night, yes, but don't feel like you made the wrong play. Right? There is no one in the fantasy football sphere that said Kyle Pitts is going to have a career game, let alone Kyle Pitts is going to outperform Trey McBride this week. Right? We knew McBride would have a tougher week going against Houston. But it's the playoffs. You start the guys who got you there.
Right.
Trey McBride is a big reason that got you to the playoffs. It was not Kyle Pitts.
Right.
So I get it. I understand that you want to think that way, but you can't beat yourself up. I would rather go down with my top dogs in my lineup and miss that home run shot off a career game than try and get too cute and then have my top dogs on the bench and they would have carried me through easily. So I get it, but don't beat yourself up about that one. There's not a single person who would have advised you to play Kyle Pitts over Trey McBride this week.
No. And yeah, to put that in perspective as well, right? Kyle Pitts, just as Kevin just mentioned, had the best fantasy performance from a tight end in 40 plus years, right? Like that's how historic and how great it truly was. Even with that historic night and Kyle Pitts having one more game under his belt this season, Trey McBride has put up more than 40 points over the course of the season against over what Kyle Pitts has done, right? That's averaging out to 4.5 to 5 extra points a week, right? Like, so looking at it, you're looking at it, hindsight, yes, but going into that matchup, there's not a single person out there that would have told you that, hey, my tight end in half point, like my tight end that scored me 14.5 to 15 points, like average in half point PPR scoring, it is a huge positional advantage because most of the other top end tight ends only score you about 10 points a week. So let's go ahead and play a guy that's with that historic night is now averaging 10 points a week, 10 points a game versus the guy that's averaging about 15 points a week. Right? Like there's nobody in the world that would have told you to do that. And yeah, had you asked the question on Tuesday, we still would have told you that it's McBride all day over Pitts and we wouldn't think twice about it.
Sure.
So that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles there, right? Like you can't predict historic nights and career nights, and if you can, you're kind of you need to be working some of those angles through Vegas side of things, right? Because but yeah. Anyway, Kyle Pitts absolutely having a historic night last night. Any other thoughts on that one?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go ahead and head on into this one here. Let's get it. Say, what's up, fellas? Need 2 running backs. Considering benching Kyren, and the 3 running back options are Kyren, Marks, and Hendy.
I don't hate that. I just don't. Buffalo is bottom 4 or 5 in the league against the run, so that makes sense for Henderson. And really, the Cardinals aren't any better. I think they're basically right on par there with Buffalo. So you're playing the matchups, right? Your Woody Marks is going to see 25 touches probably in this game against Arizona. So I think that's the right call. You take the volume. Kyren has only been playing or getting about half the touches. Blake Corum's kind of coming on here. They've been trying to save Kyren Williams for this playoff run that the Rams want to go on. So you need to be able to use that information. And with that information being said, you want to play the matchups. And Marks and Henderson have a much easier path than Kyren does this week. And because of that, you play those guys. So I completely agree with your assessment.
Right. Like when you look at it, the Detroit is giving up, and these are all kind of in the half point range here for scoring, but Detroit is the team that allows the third fewest points, fantasy points to opposing fantasy running backs, right? Like they are a tough matchup in order for running backs to get points on. Whereas the Woody Marks and going up against the Cardinals allow the 7th most points to opposing fantasy running backs on a per game basis. So that is a huge plus matchup there. And Woody Marks certainly will get the volume to be able to try and capitalize on that. Travion Henderson, the Bills allow the 3rd most points to opposing fantasy running backs. And even with him likely going to be splitting the backfield and splitting carries with Ramondre Stevenson, I think that there's still enough volume for him to be able to capitalize on that kind of matchup there as well. So to simply echo what Kevin's saying there, you play the matchups and you move on, right? Like Kyren certainly has some name power and certainly has been a guy that's helped get you here. But this one is one where the matchups are too juicy to not try and capitalize on that. So any other thoughts on that one?
No, sir. I'm right there.
All righty. And while we wait for some other questions that come in here, let's go ahead and take a look here at the weekend slate and week 15. And is there anything that you're kind of looking forward to here when it comes down to week 15?
The Rams and the Lions, I think, is kind of primo game, if you will. I think that one should be interesting. I think Buffalo and Cincinnati could be interesting because it's interdivision, right? These guys are fighting for potential playoff spots. I know Pittsburgh has the lead here at the moment, but the winner of this game, I think Cincinnati is completely toast if they lose. I think Baltimore still has an outside shot if they were to drop this game, but it's only an outside shot. So Baltimore really needs this game to stay in the hunt and keep pace with Pittsburgh. So that one is super interesting. I think the Buffalo New England game is really interesting, right? New England's coming off a bye week. Buffalo is trying to get rounded off into playoff form. So I think there's some potential there for a good game after New England beat them pretty soundly earlier in the season. So we'll see how this game kind of looks. Denver, Green Bay's interesting, right? I mean, it's both are top two teams in their respective conferences. Denver again coming off of a late bye, so they got a chance to they got a chance to kind of figure their business out. They can clinch a playoff spot with a win on Sunday, and all but wrap that division up. Not quite, but all but wrap that division up. So I think that one's super interesting. But those are kind of the three games that really stick out. I mean, you could argue Kansas City and the Chargers.
Right.
Again, divisional game. Kansas City's trying to find a way to get into the wild card spot. The Chargers won that game earlier in the year, seeing if they can kind of keep the momentum that they gained off of a overtime victory against the Eagles last week. So that one's interesting as well. Philly and Vegas this week does nothing for me. Cleveland, Chicago really doesn't do anything for me.
The Jets
Carolina,
and the Jags don't do anything.
Jets and the Jags, no. Like Carolina and New Orleans, only because Carolina is now technically leading that division. So now they have a chance to kind of start to put a stranglehold on it if they go in and beat New Orleans. But New Orleans did beat Carolina earlier this season.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe a bit of redemption. New Orleans is at home, so it's a tough divisional road game for the Panthers, but there's some opportunity there. Tennessee and San Francisco, no thank you. Like, for as good as last week's slate was with all these interdivisional games and conference games, right? We only had one game that was AFC versus NFC, and that was the Monday night game. This week has a little bit more crossover between them. Not nearly as many divisional games. So for week 15, it's just kind of ho-hum.
Ho-hum is about right? There's a few games that kind of stand out, but for the most part, not super sexy on a lot of these ones, right? It'll be interesting to see between the Jags and the Panthers. Between the Saints and the Panthers, right? Like if the Saints manage to win that game, the Buccaneers, I believe, actually float back up into the division lead there, right? With both the Panthers and the Bucks being 7-7. And so like that one's some jockeying back and forth there. But the Chiefs, the Chargers can essentially, eliminate the Chiefs from that point, right? Like playoff percentages become very small. The Ravens, this is a must-win game for both the Ravens and the Bengals. So we'll see how that one comes to play there. But outside of some of these types of storylines and some of that, and I think that's probably more what I'm looking for and seeing from this weekend is more storylines like than actual good matchups.
Seattle, Indianapolis looked good 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Right. Not
like,
so much.
Okay. Today. Looking ahead, like you thought, okay, that's pretty good. Now, not so much. Like Seattle's defense is really getting locked in. The Colts really don't know what they're doing at quarterback. Like unless you have Jonathan Taylor, like you're pretty much looking at trying to find a different option for any of the pass catchers, Tyler Warren included, just because you don't know what you're going to get. So this game's kind of turned into and the most intriguing thing about this is, can JSN stay on track to get to 2,000 yards?
Right.
Like that's the intriguing thing about Seattle and Indy right now.
Right. And really about the only thing that's there, right? So
right. Minnesota, Dallas, like
woof.
Yeah, I mean, it'll get good primetime views because it's the Cowboys, right? And the Cowboys do just draw well for the primetime games. Which version of Minnesota are we going to get? Are we going to get the McCarthy who helped lead the team 31-0 against the Commanders last week? Or are we going to get the McCarthy from a couple weeks ago where they almost had to fake a concussion basically to get him off the field? Like I don't know. Like, so very interesting, but surely there's going to be an upset, right? It's the NFL. That's just kind of how it goes. But as you're going through this slate, I would tell you most of these games going through it and just picking the winner, right? Not spread, not, betting lines, anything like that, but just picking the outright winner. This is one of those weeks where you go through and you feel like you can nail 14 out of 16 without really breaking a sweat.
Yeah. And it's always those weeks too that you do that, and then all of a sudden you turn around and you're like, how did I go 500?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's going to be some that shock us for sure.
Right.
But on paper and looking at it, you're going, this looks like a pretty chalky weekend.
Right. Yeah, it certainly seems like that. We got one coming in here. Dawn over on YouTube saying, need 2 wide receivers between Ladd, Tet, Sutton, or Michael Wilson. Thanks. Ladd, Tet, and Sutton, and Michael Wilson.
I think it's Ladd. I don't think it's Ladd. I think it's Tedero McMillan.
I would agree with that.
And then number 2 is where it gets interesting, right? Like any other matchup, maybe except the Broncos for Michael Wilson, right? If it's not the Texans and it's not the Broncos, I feel like you could start Michael Wilson and feel really confident about it, right? But with these 2 in particular, I do think it kind of caps Michael Wilson here a little bit. And I think Brissett is going to be doing a lot of checking down. Like Trey McBride might get his volume just sheerly off of check downs and how if they're letting him get out in routes. Because depends on how you want to play. If you're going to protect Brissett and give him time to throw it down the field, maybe McBride's just like the block and release, right? Like they're just kind of doing some weird things just to slow down the rush so Brissett can see everything real quick and then cut it loose. So I think I would lean, all that to say, I think I would lean Michael Wilson by the slightest of hairs over Courtland Sutton, but it's not by nearly as much as one would think just by looking at their numbers over the last 3 weeks. I really think Michael Wilson's going to struggle this week. So whatever he's projected to score, I think you can take a third off of that total, and that's more than realistic of what he's actually going to do. The Texans just don't give it up, right? They're averaging 181 passing yards allowed per game right now, like something crazy. Like it's a really, really good pass defense. So I think Wilson's going to struggle. But Ladd's been extremely hit or miss. He has not been seeing the target share that I thought he would see in the short or intermediate concepts. Like he's just not getting the ball thrown his way. And Sutton will get his targets, but you really need Sutton to kind of get in the end zone to justify his targets. Otherwise, he's gonna be like 6 for 70.
Courtland Sutton is very much a 6 for 65 kind of guy, right? 6 for 70. Like that's just kind of who he is. And if he doesn't fall into the end zone, you're very much looking at a wide receiver 3 territory. And this is one that I kind of struggle with because I would lean the Michael Wilson side of things, and it seems like that would be kind of a slam dunk just thinking of that off the top of your head. But that matchup does certainly give pause, right? Lad McConkey, same thing, right? With the Kansas City tougher matchup. We'll see how Los Angeles really wants to kind of play that at Kansas City. But I don't know. It's because I'm thinking Michael Wilson is probably in a 11-12 type of range. And if you're thinking of taking about, a third of that off, that puts him more in that kind of 8-9 range for fantasy points and a half point PPR. So I guess, yeah, if we're calling it race to 10, do you still feel confident that Michael Wilson gets to 10 before Ladd or Cortland?
No, I think Cortland can get there beforehand.
Okay.
Ladd should be able to. Should. This matchup with the Chiefs screams Ladd McConkey. It just does. But I just can't trust it. So it's the playoffs, and I want to be risk adverse. And part of being risk adverse is realizing what the matchups are when all these guys are so close together, at least in my mind, because of how things are shaking out. So I would tell you that Cortland Sutton has a higher likelihood of getting to 10 points than Michael Wilson does this week, or Ladd McConkey.
Okay. So does that change your thought on that? Are you going Tet and Cortland, or are you still sticking Tet and Michael Wilson?
I think it depends on. I know I said Wilson. I might be backing up. I think it might be your situation. If you're chasing points, right? If you feel like your opponent has better matchups and has an easier path to points, I'm probably going Sutton. I just don't see how Michael Wilson gets in the end zone this week.
Okay.
If you just know that you need some points and you just can't get goose egged no matter what, then Michael Wilson's your guy.
Okay.
Like if all you feel like you need is 8 to 10, Michael Wilson's your guy. That's all but guaranteed. If you need 11 to 15, I'd tell you it's more Sutton than anybody else.
Okay. And I'm kind of right there with you with Tet, right? I think I still lean the Michael Wilson side of things. Yeah, I like the Sutton side, but I just, again, right, like if Sutton doesn't get into the end zone, Sutton is a hard guy to feel good about in your roster, because in the weeks that he doesn't get into the end zone, you're kind of that perpetual wide receiver 3 to 4 range. So, yeah, even with the tough matchup and with Michael Wilson, I think I'm still leaning the Michael Wilson side of things. Not going to surprise me if he still manages to get close to double-digit targets, and I'll take the volume off of that. So, yeah, I think that's where I'm leaning more so is Tet and Michael Wilson. And then you've given your reasons there as well. So, any other thoughts on this one? All righty. Well, very good. I'm not showing any other comments or questions coming in from the chat. So we'll give folks kind of a final moment to try and throw any last questions that they have out there. But while we do that, any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Dance with who you brought. Right? Dance with who you brought to the event. So in 99% of cases, like, don't get too cute. Don had a great question, right? All these guys are kind of jumbled up together. He could have been shadowing or playing matchups here the last 5 weeks for all of these guys. Yes, it was a lot of Michael Wilson, but there's no clear-cut number one. But if you have a clear-cut one, that's who you're starting. So back to what Frosty said earlier. Don't be frustrated if you played someone over Pitts. Like, that's okay, right? But don't compound the issue then by chasing points somewhere and playing Woody Marks over Devon Achane. Like, Something like that. Yes, we expect Woody to have a good week, but Devon Achane is your ace. He has been doing it for the last 5-6 weeks consistently. That's the guy you're plugging in your lineup. So, play your studs, make the judgment calls where you need to, based off of matchups, based off of trends that we've seen lately. All these things. It's good information to have, but do not paralyze yourself by consuming too much information.
Analysis by paralysis is a real thing when it comes to some of this sometimes. So, we got a couple more coming in here. Derek over on YouTube, Dak or Purdy this week? Thanks.
I think Dak has the upside because the Cowboys just have to score points. Like
Right.
they just do. Purdy probably has a safer floor. It's a much easier matchup against Tennessee. Um, so you're hoping for the checkdowns, right? The passing game as an extension of the running game is what you need out of Brock Purdy. See if Juwan Jennings can get to 15 points, maybe Kittle gets involved here, and then checkdowns to McCaffrey, which is how they've played this season, right? McCaffrey's not necessarily running the ball 15 to 20 times a game. He's running the ball 12 or so times a game and then getting 8 targets on top of that.
Right. He's a slot receiver that runs the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. So Brock is your floor, Dak is your ceiling.
So I like that. I would lean the Dak side on that. Again, right. Some of that is looking for some upside and some swing there, right? Dak has been very good all year long, and I would lean that side of things. But I do also like what Kevin said there too about Brock Purdy. I think he does have a safer floor in there as well. But it's one of those that I think Brock Purdy's floor is probably around that 15, 16 points this week, whereas I think Dak, you could see an upside swing of somewhere in the 20 to 22 point range, right? Like that being said, I would still lean the Dak side of it. But again, some of that just depends on your matchup and what you've got for the fantasy playoffs here, right? If you've got a lineup and you're set in your other matchups and you feel very confident about that, and you just need a guy that's going to go out and get you, very safe, consistent 15 points out of your quarterback position, Brock Purdy's your guy, right? If you need something with a little bit more punch and upswing, Dak is the guy that you turn to on that one. Dom over on YouTube asking Judkins, Dow, Genty, or Neal need one. Talk about some other guys kind of jumbled up there.
Yeah. Judkins, Dowdle, Genty, or Neal. So Judkins, Genty, and Neal all have the backfields to themselves.
Right.
So based off of volume and opportunity, I would eliminate Dowdle.
I would agree.
So that's step one. So Dowdle gets eliminated. Genty at Philadelphia.
Potential for boom bust is high on that one.
Yep, absolutely. And then Neal at home against Carolina. I could like that. And then Judkins
at Chicago.
I think I'm going to lean Judkins. With Sampson being out, Dylan Ford just got put on IR. I think Judkins is in for a massive workload. And I think this is how Cleveland needs to keep this game low scoring and kind of dirty to beat Chicago, I think. And Judkins is going to be a prime reason of how they're able to do that.
Yeah,
I think that's where I would lean by a hair.
Judkins would be my first guy as well, right? Genty, yeah, certainly you took the draft capital on him, but I just don't feel very confident on that one, right? Like he's disappointed you kind of all season long in most cases. The matchup for Judkins isn't great, but it's not bad either, right? It's kind of that neutral matchup there where the Bears are giving up around that 12 to 13 or giving up the 12th to 13th most points to opposing fantasy running backs, kind of middle of the pack. So I would lean the Judkins side of it as well. Simply because of what Kevin just said. I don't think they're going to drop back and try and throw the ball 40 times in this one. I think they're going to very much try and ground and pound and just milk the clock on this one. So I lean Judkins, but the rest of those guys are kind of jumbled up pretty close together. Any other thoughts on this one?
No.
All right. Derek over on YouTube saying, I've been rolling with Tyler Warren this year, but this week I'm a little nervous. I did pick up Likely as an alternative option. Thoughts? Thanks.
I think I would still go Warren over Likely. Mark Andrews is playing. That news came out. So yes, Andrews is going to play. If he wasn't, I think I would advise Likely, but because Andrews is playing, I think I'd rather stick with Tyler Warren and hope that whoever the quarterback is in Indianapolis, like the game plan is just to get the ball out quick. And sometimes when you're getting the ball out quick, the tight end is a really good asset to have. So I like his path to 10 points better than I like Isaiah Likely's.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. If Likely doesn't get into the end zone, I think his path to try and getting to 10 points is almost non-existent, right? I think Tyler Warren has the potential to still get there from a potential volume just off the checkdowns to it. So I would still lean with the Tyler Warren. I understand the trepidation on that one with the quarterback situation in Indianapolis with Riley Leonard looking to potentially be the guy under center and getting trying to get the job done there. But sometimes a good pass catching tight end is a quarterback's best friend, especially when needing to 1-2 and out. So I do think we'll see Tyler Warren get some decent volume there. So alrighty, any other thoughts on that one?
No, sir.
Alrighty. Well, I do believe that is the end of the questions, and I do believe that that's going to take us down here to the end of it. So anybody else out there that has questions, concerns, comments, hit us up on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Good Old Boys FF. We'll get back to you just as quickly as we can there. But that's going to do it for us tonight. He's Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.